to another installment of Chuck's captivating chat. I can't believe it's Monday again. Felt like I just did the show like what a day or two ago, but that's good. Um, it's been quite a day, quite a day. I'm envious of all of you out there who got to see the eclipse. Um, where I live here in Southern California. Just one second here. I'm just letting my manager know that I am on the air. Uh, here we go. I am on right now. There we go. Okay, it's live. One of the things my dear manager, Debbie Brady, told me was don't worry about imperfection so much. I got into this in the beginning thinking I needed to be so polished and professional and be up to broadcast levels. And she reminded me, no, this is a different world. It's YouTube. On YouTube, people actually like us to be human, to be real, to make our F ups on the air, our mistakes, like what I just did right now. It's all human, it's real, and it's part of our great connection with each other. I love it when you write to me, you contact me, you ask me questions, you make suggestions. This is great. This is the best. You know, I- when I get on here and do this, I feel like I'm just having a giant Zoom call with a lot of friends. And I've even advised people, Dr. Whimsy and Anderson and I do a show on Tuesdays called Taco Tuesdays. And we do a monthly book club segment where we interview an author. Whimsy is wonderful at picking writers of independent, self published books to bring attention. There's so much talent out there waiting to be seen. And we like to do this. And I love reading a wonderful book, connecting. I always feel like I connect energetically with an author anyway, with any book that I right. And what's this, Debbie? Give me a couple more minutes. Okay. I'll give you a couple or more minutes. I'm going to keep talking. Debbie has to do a little magic so that this gets rerouted and gets recorded and appears on YouTube. Meantime, it's kind of like a hand clapping by itself. I don't know if anybody is watching me right now, but I'm sure you'll watch the replay. But anyway, I was getting back to what I was saying. Whimsy and I love interviewing authors, and I love it in particular because I'm a lifelong lover of books. And I love to write myself. So I just love to talk to writers about their process. And this is exciting for me that we do this. And I had a writer recently. She had never done a show like this. She had never done an on-camera interview, and she was scared. And I said, "Well, hey, I understand. I understand. I've only been doing this a few months myself, and in the beginning, I was very, very scared. The first time I did a live stream ever in my life was with Dr. Whimsy, and she practically drugged me into it, kicking and screaming, "No, Whimsy, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for this." And she kept saying, "Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Whether you like it or not, you are." So, yeah, those first few shows, I made some horrible mistakes. We had problems with the sound and with the lighting, with the equipment. But, you know, that's the only way you learn. You dive in. So I told this writer, just pretend nobody's watching. It's just us. And we're just having a Zoom call together. Like we're talking as friends. And that immediately put her at ease, and we had a fabulous interview. So that's what I do right now. I just look at this as my weekly Zoom conference with all of my friends. Yeah, and I look forward to it, and it's a happy place. One of the things Dr. Whimsy says to me before we do our Tuesday show, we do a little 15-minute pre-show where we go over our material and what we're going to talk. And Whimsy always says to me just before we go on live, "Chuck, go to your destiny." So that's what I try to remember when I do this. Go to my destiny. Hit the little button. 3, 2, 1. Hi, I'm on the air. So I love it. Um, I'm working hard right now. I'm trying to get a commissioned piece of artwork finished. I'm doing my usual videos that I post on my YouTube channel, Chuck's Captivating Chronicles. I do 2 live streams a week, and I'm also taking a couple of classes right now. So, I don't have a lot of free time anymore, time that I can just go on my own, but yet at the same time, I love stretching my self-perceived limitations to find that I can go much further than I thought. And anybody who knows me well, Debbie will tell you this: I am one to freak out in the beginning. I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm overwhelmed. And then I start to get used to it and I start to get comfortable with it. And then I start to love it. And it starts to become exciting to me when I find I can do much more than I ever once thought I could. So that's where my life has been. But consequently, I just heard my cat in the kitchen. She broke a crystal vase today. I heard a loud crash in the other room. Yes, it was a crystal vase someone had given to me, or should I say crystal vase. I have a friend, Italian friend, who keeps telling me he wants to have his own cat one day, and he wants a Siamese cat just like my Sasha. I want to say, you want this one? You can have this one right now. She she's a dear, sweet little cat, but she can go on destructive bends. She's like like a Siamese Tasmanian devil. And I just heard something in the kitchen. I can't go tend to it right now. There was one evening I heard a lot of crashing sounds in the kitchen, and I went in and I saw she had opened the kitchen cabinet up and she was taking her paws, pulling cans out and throwing them onto the floor. That's my Sasha. And by the way, she does have her own channel, Sasha's Siamese Secrets. Please like and subscribe. We're working on it. We've got some things in the planning stages. That's one of the other things I'm working on right now with my dear friend Pam of Pomona Remembers. We're working on a special project that's going to involve some computer animation, but momentarily I am designing the characters that we're going to do, and that's a whole different thing for me. But I'm doing them hand drawn, hand painted, because I am woefully inadequate when it comes to computers. And with Sis Debbie, it's not her fault. It's yours for putting things that break near the edge where she can push them off. Yes. Okay. I take responsibility. Actually, here in Southern California, we have a product that's very popular. It's called earthquake putty. Or, well, it's also known as museum wax. We call it earthquake putty. And most of the things I have in here, I have literally glued down. Or what I don't have glued down, I have tied down with clear nylon fishing string. Somehow, I did not secure the vase as well as I should have. So, yeah, that's my fault. Sasha's just being Sasha, just being a cat. But anyway, what I was saying, because I'm not computer savvy. Yes, I'm old. I wasn't raised around computers. I talk to people, oh, we had computers in kindergarten and the first grade. First computer I ever encountered in my life was the last semester of my senior year of college. It was one of those very early Macintosh computers, which I think are now considered. I think there's one in the Smithsonian Institution now. It's considered such a collectible, such a scarcity. And I never did learn to use the damn thing, and did not start getting into the computer stuff until 1990s, 2000s. Anyway, cut to the chase. I'm designing these characters. I'm hand drawing them and hand painting them. And then I'm going to turn them over to Pam and see what she can do, because she's far more proficient with computers than I am. And we're going to work on some scripts and some voices. And that's going to be a big thing for that channel one day. We're working on it. So anyway, I guess in a roundabout kind of sort of way, I'm saying this is why I have not had time to prepare for a show today. But I learned, and I talked about this last week, I learned a big lesson from the wonderful spiritual writer Shakti Gawain. I told a great story about her. She was the best-selling author of several books, particularly the book Creative Visualization. And she told me that, and this is a woman who lectured all over the world at one time. And she said, at least she claimed this, that she never prepared. She simply went up to the podium, to the microphone, and started channeling. And she always had a worthwhile talk. And I found that that method serves me well. It goes back to also my acting training with Dee Wallace, where she was about don't prepare, don't over rehearse things, don't overthink things, get your energy up, get focused, and just channel. So here I am. I've got some more time to fill here, at least another 20 minutes. And I thought, well, what am I going to talk about today? And I thought immediately to a video that I posted about Irma Cusley. Now, you may say, who the hell is Irma Cusley? Well, Irma Cusley was Lucille Ball's hairdresser and was her hairdresser for, I don't want to say Lucy's entire life, but a good portion of it for, I think, from 1941 or 42 all the way up to Lucy's death in 1989. And Irma used to do Lucy's hair for all of her television shows, later did Lucy's wigs. I guess that's not a secret anymore, but from the 1960s on, those beautiful bouffant hairdos that Lucille Ball had, those were all wigs. I have a hairdresser friend. I was asking her about it, because in the 1960s, those big teased up bouffant hairdos were big. And I said to my friend, how can you do all that to your hair and not be bald? And my friend said, you can't. It's impossible. Trust me, most of those women were wearing wigs back in those days. You just can't do all that to your hair. It just can't be done. But anyway, Irma was the one who made Lucille Ball a redhead. I know credit goes to head of MGM hairstyling, Sydney Gilleroff. It's kind of like Edith Head, the costume designer. She had I could have my facts wrong here, but she had a staff of something like 30 designers under her. And lots of times she would take their designs and sign her name to it, but she felt it was her right to do that since they were her staff. So Sydney Gilleroff tended to take credit for other hairdressers' work because it was supposedly done under his supervision as head of hairstyling at MGM. Well, Lucille Ball, this is great how I segue into my Lucille Ball story right away. Lucy had been in RKO Studios for 7 years. That's where she started out as a contract player, $75 a week. And she started out doing a little bit walk-ons and single line stuff. And by the late 30s, she was a full-fledged star. At least a star of, she was known as the queen of the Bs, meaning B movies, grade B movies. That's what they stuck her in a lot of movies. Those were the type of movies they stuck her in. She was a star of B movies, the queen of the Bs. Occasionally, she'd be put in a more prestigious film. But her career was going nowhere at RKO, and part of that had to do with the fact that Lucy was having an affair with Pandro Berman. And this was before Desi, I want to emphasize, but the head of RKO Studios, Pandro Berman, Lucille Ball was having an affair with him. He was a married man. And his wife, Viola, had detectives follow Lucy and get all the dirt, and she knew everything. And Viola was determined to destroy Lucille Ball's career, do everything she could to keep Lucy's career from rising at RKO. And Lucy knew she had to move on. And she got rave reviews for a film she made in 1941 called The Big Street. And if you've ever seen it, Lucy was incredible. It's a full-on dramatic performance, and Lucy plays a bitch with a capital B. It was such a bitchy role. She was afraid to take it on. It was because the character for most of the movie is quite unsympathetic. And it was her friend Charles Lawton who said, Lucy, you gotta play a bitch. Be the biggest bitch there ever was. Go for it. And it was Lucy's friend Carol Lombard, who was initially offered the role herself, who suggested Lucy for it and thought Lucy would be better suited. And Carol was a very, very generous spirit. She liked to help other aspiring actors along the way, and she was close with Lucy, and she thought this would be Lucy's big break. Well, in many ways, it was Lucy's big break. Rave reviews. The movie did quite well, and her contract was coming to an end, and MGM expressed interest in Lucy. And at the time, Metro Goldwyn Mayer was the biggest of all of the studios. And also, MGM was known for their big, splashy Technicolor musicals, and that appealed to Lucy. Lucy was a good dancer, and she had a much better voice than people often attribute to her. And most of that because of I Love Lucy. And she purposely sang badly on the show. And of course, later in life, when her voice was a lot deeper, like when she did Mame, she didn't sound so great, but she could carry a tune. And they usually dubbed people anyway in those days. So Lucy was very excited to land a contract with MGM. And when she got there, they thought, okay, we've got to start out fresh with you. We need to reinvent you, give you a new image. And she was sent to the hair and makeup department where they experimented with different things in the mouth and the eyebrows and things. And then Sidney Gilleroff said, we're going to make you a redhead. That's how we're going to reinvent you. You're going to be a redhead. So Lucy was sent to a salon on the Sunset Strip. And it wasn't called West Hollywood then, but it's the West Hollywood area of the Sunset Strip. And that is where Irma Cusley did the deed to make Lucy a redhead. The only problem was Lucy's hair had already been bleached and permed and chemically treated so many times that it had a bad reaction to the hair dye. Lucy's hair turned green. That's right. The first time Lucy's hair was dyed red, it turned green. And I thought, is that really true? Is that really true? That sounds so much like one of those apocryphal tales that gets spun and becomes folklore. And I thought, oh no, come on, that couldn't have happened. Well, it was in the 1990s. I got to spend some time with Irma Cusley, and I wanted to ask her about it. Now, I had seen the story in Kathleen Brady's biography. It came out in 1994. And by the way, Kathy Brady is a dear lady. I could talk about her too. I got to spend time with her as well. But anyway, the story was in there. And I asked Irma Cusley, come on, what really happened? And Irma said, it's 100% true. Trust me, I was there. Lucy was furious. She was livid. She was swearing a blue streak. We have lots of colors here. It's supposed to be red. Her hair turned green. She was swearing a blue streak. She said Lucy was crying hysterically, and she thought her hair was destroyed and ruined. And they kept coloring the hair and coloring. They could not get the green out. They couldn't get it red. Irma said it took 5 hours. They finally succeeded in turning her into a redhead. And Lucy just practically grabbed her purse and ran out the door, just sobbing. It was very traumatic. It was almost like, I was thinking it was almost like a birthing process. You think about it, we've got arguably the most famous redhead in the world, probably Lucille Ball's trademark, her red hair, what would be associated with her for the rest of her life. So it's interesting. It would be such a traumatic birthing process to make her a redhead, to do the transformation. And when she became a redhead, it was decreed that her color was tango red. And Lucy wrote about it in her autobiography. She hated it. That's right. She hated her red hair in the beginning. She thought it was just ghastly. She said, it looks like the color of something that you pick off of a tree. It looks like like a tangerine you take off of a tree. And it took her a long time to adjust to it. And she only went along with it because the studio told her to. And Lucy said in her autobiography, and she wrote this in the 1960s. She said, today, if it were today, I would have stood up for myself and said, no, you're not doing that to me. But she went along with it. And then she came to love her hair color. She began to look at her hair color as her badge of honor. That's what she called it. And people used to say to her, Lucy, nobody has hair that color. And Lucy would say, well, I do. Well, I do. So if she became very proud of it. And over the years, she modified it. If you look at her movies that are in color, you look at her television shows. Sometimes it was like a very dark, almost a hard red. And then other times it was more like a strawberry blonde. Like if you watched the Long Long Trailer, which was what, 1953, that was in color during the peak of the I Love Lucy years. Her hair was more of a strawberry blonde. It was almost disappointing. I think a lot of people were expecting her to be more of a vibrant red. But yeah, she varied that over the years. And Irma was always the one to color her hair. And Irma even wrote out what she called the recipe, how to mix all the colors and chemicals together. And I remember years ago, there was a memorabilia auction, and that was up for auction, the piece of paper that Lucy carried in her purse. So if she had to, like when she was in her home in Palm Springs, or she was traveling and she had to go to another hairdresser, she had her formula there. And Irma even put a little hair swatch on there with the red hair color so it could be matched up, which I think is really cool. I wish I could have bought that. And I guess while we're on the subject here, Lucy's hair color was largely achieved with her hair was bleached, and then Egyptian henna was applied. And supposedly it was the same Egyptian henna used by Cleopatra. At least that's the legend. That might be overly embellished, but that's the story I keep seeing in all the books and on the internet. It was the same that Cleopatra used to color her hair. And Lucy was once in a quandary because by the early 50s, she was running out of her henna. It turns out I should have checked into this. There was some sort of trade embargo going on between America and Egypt at the time. So she couldn't get her henna. And Lucy was, to put it this way, she said, I was going two-tone like a DeSoto, black and red as the roots were going in. And she was at a party and she was talking to the Egyptian ambassador. And he said, I can help you. I can get you all the henna you want. Really? Well, anyway, it wasn't that much, maybe a week or so later or so, this truck pulled up in front of her home with boxes and boxes and boxes of Egyptian henna. And Lucy said it was a lifetime supply of henna. She had her garage filled with boxes of henna. And it was after her death. Uh, I think it was Lucy Arnaz, her daughter, who did this, sold little vials of the henna to raise money for charities. And again, I missed my opportunity to buy a vial of her henna, but I have enough Lucy memorabilia. But anyway, I thought that was a very sweet thing there. Uh, so those are some of the stories about that, about Lucy's hair color, but also along the lines of Irma Cusley. She also introduced me to Lucille Ball's wig maker. The reason those wigs look so incredible and so realistic, this woman was an artist. She told me her process, how, um, they had to, first of all, take paper and they had to trace all around Lucy's natural hairline, everything. I mean, the whole hairline. They perfectly copied that, and then she took lace, wig making lace, and she hand stitched each of the hair by hair by hair, strand by strand into the lace, matching Lucy's hairline. And it was an intricate process. I should have asked her how long it took her to make those wigs, but those wigs were just like pieces of art. They were sculpture. And I know in the early 60s, one of her wigs cost $3,000. Now, if I had thought I was going to talk about this, I would have calculated what that would be in 2024 dollars, but I'm sure it's a lot of money. $3,000 for a wig is a lot of money. And Lucy used to send the bills to CBS. She sent them directly to William Paley, the president of CBS, and he authorized it because she was CBS's biggest star and they wanted to keep Lucy happy. So that's how she got her wigs, and I got to meet her. And I asked Irma, did Lucy wear wigs on I Love Lucy? And Irma said, well, sometimes, yes, she did. And Irma was explaining to me, Lucy had to do all many times very strenuous physical comedy, and she would be perspiring and she'd be messed up, and her hair would get messed up. You can't keep your hair looking pristine when you're doing all that. And Irma said that it would take oh, Debbie just calculated here. Oh my God, $29,554.86. Whoa. Oh my. Boy, CBS really wanted to keep Lucy happy in those days, didn't they? But anyway, Irma said, Lucy was a stickler about filming that show straight through without interruption or as little as necessary. You sometimes you had to stop to load film in the cameras, or there had to be costume changes or changes to the set, things like that. But it was all carefully rehearsed. If you know anything about sitcom production today, three camera studio on sitcoms, they can sometimes go on 5, 6 hours or more. I've heard stories of them going on well into the morning doing retakes. Lucy wanted nothing to do with that because she and Desi were very budget conscious. They were very mindful of all the whole crew that had to be paid. So that's one of the reasons they rehearsed that show to every little detail, every camera movement, every action, everything was like clockwork. So they could typically film an episode of, what's that, Debbie? In 1965, the average price of a new car was $2,650. Whoa, I'm going to look at Lucy differently when I watch the Lucy show. That was a lot of money on her head. I'm thinking of that movie Julia with Jane Fonda when she had to smuggle uh, cash through Nazi Germany and she had a hat on her head with cash sewn inside of it. Lucy was wearing the equivalents in her wigs. But anyway, Irma said for those reasons, for expediency, if it was a really strenuous thing where she was going to get messed up, they had, hey, Pam, thanks for joining. Oh, it's never too late to join the party. I'm just glad to have you here. Um, she would have wigs on standby, styled carefully to match Lucy's real hair to where you couldn't tell them apart. So there are some episodes of I Love Lucy. I guess watch after a big stunt or something and see if you can notice that Lucy was wearing a wig. And I think where it was really best used was, that episode, and I've talked to people who tell me they hate this episode. They do, because, it's one of those times it's funny, but yet you kind of feel sorry for Lucy, and frankly, Ricky the character Ricky came off a bit of a creep in this. It was the one where Lucy was on the game show, and she was trying well, Ricky was getting back at her for lying. He was trying to teach her a lesson. She was trying to win a trip to Hawaii for herself and the Mertzes, and she had to stand in the circle and endure all of this abuse while Ricky sang song titles. And of course, bucket of water was poured over her head, eggs were dropped on her, and the worst of all, honey. They poured gallons of honey over Lucy's head. Oh, it was horrible. I mean, you just feel for the woman, and they threw pies at her and coffee. And I had to ask Irma about that. I said, "How on earth did you get that honey out of Lucy's hair? Oh my god." And Irma said, "We just pulled off her wig." But I said, "That was a wig?" "Oh, yes, we never would have done that to Lucy for real. No, that was a wig." So when you watch that episode of I Love Lucy, watch the beginning before all the water and honey and stuff drops on her. Now that I know it, you can tell it's a wig she's wearing, carefully matched to her own hair. But and also, if you look at Lucy's dress, it's a little puffy looking. I think that's because they probably put plastic underneath the dress, and you can see where she's got a flesh colored scarf here, and they were doing everything to protect Lucy. So after they were finished filming, she could pull the wig off, take the clothes off, and shower, and it wasn't going to be so traumatic. I felt more sorry for Lucy Ricardo. When I watched that show, I thought, how did Lucy get home? What did she do? Did she have to go home in the taxi or on the subway covered in honey like that? I don't know. I thought that was one of the more sadistic episodes they ever did, but it was obviously done with Lucy's approval. She had final say on everything, and she was apparently fine with it. In fact, Desi said that Lucy loved doing messy stunts like that. To her, that was fun. She was not obsessed with how she looked on camera. That was one of the things that differentiated her. Yes, she was a beautiful woman, and many of those shows, she's beautifully made up, beautifully coiffed, beautifully dressed, but she wasn't afraid to get messy, like the long trailer and she falls in the mud, or when she take pies in her face, get honey dropped on her head, the chocolate factory, chocolate in the face. And of course, most famously, the grape vat. And I just realized that's a story for me to tell here, since I'm on the theme of Irma Cusley and Lucille Ball's hair and her loose. What's that? Debbie said, hopefully they use corn syrup instead of honey. No, that was honey. That was honey. I found Irma confirmed that to me, and I also talked to the writer, Madeline Pugh Davis, who told me that was honey. They did the real thing. They put Lucy through it. But anyway, while we're on the topic of Lucy's hair color and Irma Cusley, this is a perfect tie-in. I actually wasn't planning this, but it was the grape vat episode. And there's a lot of differing accounts on that episode. Lucy, according to my friend Bart Andrews, who interviewed her a number of times, very smart woman, but she tended to have a faulty memory, or she wanted to embellish memories, make them a little bigger than they were. She was a born storyteller. She'd been that way since she was a little girl. And oh, Joyce, we video chatted during totality. I'm so envious of people who got to see the eclipse today. Here in Southern California, we didn't. I was told you could see a little bit of it, but I was also told do not look up at the sun unless you have special glasses, which I did not have. And I don't particularly want to go blind, so I didn't even try to look for it. So I just watched the coverage on television, but I was envious of people. Like, I have a good friend who lives near Buffalo, and I understand that that was in the path. Also, because of my artwork in James Dean's hometown of Fairmount, Indiana, and I've been to Fairmount, I have friends there now. And I know that Indianapolis and all throughout Indiana, they got the totality. So I need to communicate with some of them. But anyway, I got off the track here. Lucy loved to embellish her stories and make them bigger than life. People said she was like this when she was a little girl. Even she was just a storyteller. So Lucy claimed that she was nearly drowned in the grape juice. She had her head held down and she was fighting for her life and almost died on camera. Okay. No, 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 no. Well, maybe there's some partial truth to it. Here's the thing, because I've seen the original shooting script for it, and I have talked to people who were there. Irma Cusley, Lucy's hairdresser, was there because as Lucy's hairdresser, she had to be on standby, for whatever needs. Lucy's hair to be fixed, touched up, wig had to be put on her or something. But anyway, Irma said to me, no way was Lucy's head supposed to be dunked under the grape juice, because had I known, I would have put a wig on her. Because she said, the thing about bleached hair, it's porous, very porous, meaning it's absorbent. And Irma stood there in horror. Oh my God. Because she thought Lucy's hair was going to be permanently dyed purple from the grape juice. It wasn't supposed to happen. Lucy was never supposed to get her hair wet in the grape juice. But the Italian actress, or I don't think she was really even an actress. They just found an Italian woman who was right for this, and she spoke very little English, and they just instructed her to go for it on camera, just go after Lucy. But Lucy wasn't expecting her to be as strong as she was, and was not expected to be held down in the grape juice like that. And of course, you watch that show, it's just classic. It's hysterical. I mean, it's one of those lucky accidents if it wasn't planned, because it is just perfect. It's iconic. Lucy's legs as she's fighting to get out of the grape vat, and she gets out of there and she's just covered in the grape juice and everything. But Irma said, no, that definitely was not supposed to happen. But I have talked to other people who said, oh, no way was Lucy being drowned. Oh, please. And, if that were happening, that you would have had about 30 people calling cut and running onto set to save her. We were all watching it. Lucy's life was never in danger. It just got a lot more raucous and a lot messier than they were planning. And apparently they loved it, because I've seen a photograph. There was a break after that where Lucy was in the makeup room, where they were fixing up for her final scene, and they were even putting more grape juice on her and stuff and making her look even messier. Because, we had that final scene, because Lucy was doing it because she wanted to be cast in this Italian movie called Bitter Grapes. Only to find out from the director that Bitter Grapes was a metaphorical title, not literal. She- and Lucy found out she had been in all that grape juice for nothing. And because she was now purple, he couldn't use her. And that's Lucy has her line, oh, please, I'll do anything. I'll do anything. I'll shave my head. I'll wear a mask. And he ends up giving the part to Ethel. But anyway, that's the story. That I got that straight from the people who were on the set and Lucy's hairdresser. That's the truth of what happened with the grape vat. And let's see here. Oh, I have other stories here to tell, but I think I'm going to save these for another week, because I am at the 40-minute point. And let's see, I'm just looking to see if anybody has any comments there. Oh, Joyce said, who dunked her? It was the Italian woman they hired. I'm embarrassed to say I cannot think of her name off the top of my head. But it's my understanding she was not an actress. She did not speak much English. And that's where a lot of the problems were. And this wasn't the first time they had ever used a non-actor. If it fit the needs for the show, they would just get a real person. Because the other example I can think of where there was also a mishap was the Candy Factory. I mean, the official title of that episode is called Job Switching, but we all know it as the Candy Factory, the conveyor belt. Lucy and Ethel. Speed her up, Otto. But there's that whole bit beforehand where Lucy is taken to the chocolate dipping department, and there's this very serious woman with her head down, and she's swirling the chocolate and dipping and putting them aside, and she's very humorless and she doesn't talk. Well, that's because the woman was not an actress. That was a real factory worker at See's Candy here in Los Angeles that they hired. And the woman said she had never watched I Love Lucy in her life. She goes, "That's Monday nights. That's the night I watch boxing." No, wrestling. I watch wrestling on Monday nights. So anyway, she got hired, and not being an actor, she didn't have any. They just said, "Look, all we want you to do is just dip chocolates like you really would if you were working at See's Candy. And when Lucy taps your face, you take chocolate and haul off and hit her in the face with the chocolate." Well, a trained actor would, know how to do that in a stunt way so you don't hurt the person. It's like a stage slap or something. According to Lucy, and I tend to believe Lucy here because you watch the episode, Lucy gets hit really hard in the face. Lucy said that woman almost knocked her out cold. I mean, slugged her. And you watch it when she hits her with the chocolate in the face. So that's another example of a mishap on the show dealing with a non-actor. But you know what? I think Lucy was just fine with it ultimately because she was the first to say the bottom line is the show, the higher good of the show. And did we make people laugh? Because that was her mission. I want to make people laugh. And she and Desi wanted big, hearty belly laughs. Well, look, they succeeded. Those shows are iconic. 72 years later, they still make people laugh all over the world. And just recently, into December, Variety magazine, in a compilation of the 100 greatest television shows of all time. And we're talking like Star Trek, Friends, All in the Family, MASH, The Waltons, so forth, so forth. I'm going to say I Love Lucy was named the #1 television show of all time. And I wholeheartedly agree. So I thank you so much for joining me. Um, I gave a plug to Sasha, my little crystal vase breaker. Please like and subscribe her channel, Sasha Siamese Secrets. And please, please like and subscribe my channel, Chuck's Captivating Chronicles. And I look forward to your comments, your questions, your suggestions. This is just my joy, and I love you all, and I thank you once again for joining me. So I'm going to say farewell for now until next Monday, and I'll save some of the stories I have here on my notepad for next week. Bye.